I have gone through Srila Prabhupada's instructions about second initiation, and I found different headings where we can see the importance, the purpose of second initiation, and I will explain them right now. So we have second initiation according to philosophy, why it is important, what's the purpose of second initiation according to philosophy, according to historical reason, from the point of view of society and from the point of view of individuals. So let's go on. As far as philosophy is concerned, we have different kind of initiations following different methods. So we have Bhagavata Vidhi, Vaidika Vidhi, and Pancharatrika Vidhi. The Bhagavata Vidhi is the one that we know commonly considered the first initiation, and is the initiation where we are given a spiritual name, where we promise to follow the regulative principles, where we are given japa, and where we promise to chant at least 16 rounds per day. And Srila Prabhupada speaks many times about it, both in his books and his letters. So he says in Western countries especially, okay, part of the screen covered. Let me see if I can move this. No. Okay.
It's showing fine on our side.
Yeah, but I'm unable to move that. Okay, now I got it. Okay, almost. Okay. In Western countries especially, we first observe whether a potential disciple is prepared to follow the regulative principles. Then he is given the name of a Vaishnava servant and initiated to chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra at least 16 rounds daily. And that's basically first initiation. We have Gayatri initiations, and the traditional one is called Vaidika Vidhi, which means the Vidhi, the path coming from the Vedas. And in that case, the initiation was not given to everybody. The society is divided into 4 varnas, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. And only Brahmana, Kshatriya, and Vaishya gets the Upanayana, the thread, which indicates they have been initiated and they got the second birth. Shudras cannot get that kind of initiation. There is no more Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, all Shudras. We have to accept, because no Vedic culture, no Garbhadhana Sanskara, they are born like cats and dogs. So where is this division? That means the division in 4 varnas. There cannot be. Therefore, accept them as Shudra. Varna Sankara is less than Shudra. So at least Shudra they should be. So there is no Vedic Diksha. So this system of Vedic initiation, which were given to Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, is no longer applicable in this time where we are living the Kali Yuga, because there is no real Brahmana in this Kali Yuga according to that standard, because Garbhadhana Samskara is no longer applied. And in this situation, the Pancharatrika Vidhi comes up as an alternative for initiation. And what is Pancharatrika Vidhi? So it is a method coming from Narada Pancharatra and this kind of scriptures. It is indicated also in Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th canto, 27th chapter, text number 7, where Krishna himself says that he can be worshipped according to the Vedic system, according to the Tantric system, and this is the Pancharatrika Vidhi, or with a mixture of both. So Srila Prabhupada says, and these are the letters when he introduced the first initiation in 1968 in Boston. This is the the lecture actually. So at the present moment, everyone is Shudra. Then why the sacred thread is offered? No, the sacred thread is not offered to the Shudra, it is offered to the highest Brahmana in Krishna consciousness. And how? Because in India, the caste system is by birth, but that is not recognized. So even one is not born in a Brahmana family, a Kshatriya family, still Sanatana Goswami says that by the process of initiation, any man can become a twice-born Brahmana. So the whole thing is a purificatory process. That's the important point. The second initiation is given as a purificatory process. According to the Pancharatrika system, however, even though everyone is a Shudra due to the absence of the Garbhadhana Samskara, if a person has but a little tendency to become Krishna conscious, he should be given the chance to elevate himself to the transcendental platform of devotional service. And the principle is explained by Sanatana Goswami in Hari Bhakti Vilas. Yata kanchanatam yati kamsyam rasavidhanatah tatha diksha vidhanena dvijatvam jayate nrinam. A spell metal, when mixed with mercury, is transformed to gold. A person, even though not golden pure, can be transformed into a Brahmana or Dvija simply by the initiation process. And that's the reason why in our society we have two initiations, the first initiation and the second initiation. As we said, in the first one, which is following the Bhagavata Vidi, a person is officially initiated into the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And in the second initiation, which is following the Pancharatrika Vidi, the person is initiated into different varieties of Gayatri mantras. Both of them should be there at the same time, despite Srila Prabhupada many times says that first initiation is sufficient, second initiation is secondary. There's only one instance that I found where he wrote in a letter to Jadurani that second initiation is the real initiation. But otherwise, he's always saying the initiation, the first initiation is enough, is sufficient for a person to go back home, back to Godhead. So why he has introduced also the second initiation? Let's go and see the various reasons. As I have already said many times, that we have to maintain two lines parallel, namely the path of Srimad Bhagavatam and the path of Pancharatrika. Srimad Bhagavatam is the path for Paramahamsas, and the Pancharatra path is for the neophytes. So the temple worship is necessary for the beginners, so that by following the regulative principles, such devotees become more and more purified, and thus gradually come on the platform to understand Srimad Bhagavatam. So we shall always keep these principles in view and maintain our centers on this standard. So we have got books also, philosophy also, plus the Sankirtana, combined together. Sankirtana as well as books, that is called Bhagavat Marga. And the deity worship is called Pancharatrika Vidi. Both of them should go parallel. One will help, the deity worship will help you in the path of Bhagavata Marga, and the Bhagavat Marga will help you in the Pancharatrika Vidi. So combined together, make progress. And actually we can see that the way Srila Prabhupada made the spiritual program, the daily activities of devotees, is actually a blend of these two systems. So we can see on the left side, we have the different ceremonies, the different rituals for the deity as they are worshipped in the temple, starting from Mangala Arti, going up to Shayana Arti at night. And this is definitely something connected to the Pancharatrika Vidi. But at the same time, everything is done with kirtan, which is actually the main Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam are the main process of Bhagavata Vidhi. So everything is together with Kirtan, and we have Japa between Mangalarti and Darshanarti. There is a specific time for Japa. We have Srimad Bhagavatam class between Darshanarti and Rajbhoga Arti. We have, or at least it was designed to be a Bhagavad Gita class at night before Shayana Arti. So everything which a devotee is supposed to do in his life in the temple is molded in such a way that both these systems are together and they are actually helping each other, as Srila Prabhupada said. What is not inside this different time division that we see in the slide actually is consists of many, many different services that a person is doing. And actually all of these services are somehow rather connected either to deity worship, temple maintenance, or to preaching and studying and doing activities which can be considered connected to the Bhagavata Vidhi. And this is as far as the philosophy is connected. So we have both two paths we have in our society, which are very nicely blended, and they are supporting each other. So the idea of the rails that should go parallel is very nicely exposed also in this logo, that is the Gaudiya Mission logo. And Srila Prabhupada sometimes, in order to explain the difference between Bhagavata Vidhi and Pancharatrika Vidhi and how they should be together, he refers to this image. As you can see, on the left side, it is written Vidhi under the deities of Lakshmi Narayana. And on the right side, it is written Raga under the deities of Radha and Krishna. There are two books on top. One, and the one on the right side is the Bhagavatam, and the one on the left side is the Pancharatram. And on the bottom on the left, you can see Archanam, so you can see a bell and the flame for the incense. And on the right side, it's written Kirtanam, and you can see both the Mridanga and the Brihat Mridanga, which is the printing press. So this system historically has been introduced, of course, its roots are in Sanatana Goswami's teaching, are in Srimad Bhagavatam, as far as Narada Muni's teaching are concerned, because Narada Muni is the author of Narada Pancharatra. But from an historical point of view, we can see that it was Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur to introduce this second initiation. Why did he introduce the second initiation? So there are a couple of interesting reasons, historical reasons. This is Srila Prabhupada explaining at the initiation ceremony in 1968. In the other feature of this sacred ceremony is that one may not commit offense at the feet of a Vaishnava by thinking him, oh, he's a Mlecha, he's a Yavana, or he is lower class, he is higher class, like that. Therefore, this means Brahmana initiation is offered. No, he is a Brahmana. He is a Brahmana. Otherwise, still in India, a person born in a Brahmana family, the most wretched condition, the most abominable habits, and he claims to be a Brahmana, and a person who is highly elevated in Krishna consciousness, he is not accepted. So in order to avoid that devotees with high qualities were not accepted as Brahmanas, the Brahminical initiation according to Pancharatra has been introduced. And always in the same lecture, Prabhupada said, so in order to save one from the injustice, this ceremony is required, that it is bona fide. He is a bona fide Brahmana. And as it is prescribed and ordered in the Narada Pancharatra or Vaishnava Smriti. So my Guru Maharaj, His Holiness Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj, he introduced this and we are following. So there is no question. Mahajano yena gata sapanta. We should follow the path that the Mahajana went through. During my Guru Maharaj's time, even a person was coming from a Brahmana family, he was initiated according to the Pancharatrika system, taking him to be a Shudra. So the birthright Brahmanism is not applicable at the present moment. The sacred thread inaugurated by my Guru Maharaj, according to Pancharatrika system and Hari Bhakti Vilas by Srila Sanatana Goswami, must continue. It does not matter whether the priestly class accepts it or not. When my Guru Maharaj, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada, introduced this system, it was protested even by his inner circle of God brothers or friends. Of course, he had actually no God brothers, but there were many disciples of Bhaktivinoda Thakur who were considered as God brothers who protested against this action of my Guru Maharaj. But he didn't care for it. Actually, one who takes to chanting Hare Krishna mantra offenselessly immediately becomes situated transcendentally, and therefore he has no need of being initiated with sacred thread. But Guru Maharaj introduced this sacred thread because a Vaishnava was being mistaken as belonging to the material caste. To accept a Vaishnava in material caste system is hellish consideration, naraki buddhi. Therefore, to save the general populace from being offender to a Vaishnava, he persistently introduced this sacred thread ceremony, and we must follow his footsteps. So we see that from an historical point of view, it was introduced because the Vaishnavas were not giving importance to this Vaidiki system, to the second initiation, to the thread, sacred thread, were considered by people in general, foolish people, sometimes Prabhupada call them foolish people, considered to be not elevated, were considered to be Shudras, were considered to be outcasts. So in order to save them from the offenses and to save the devotees from being offended, this second initiation ceremony has been introduced. Someone may remember the story of Narottam Das Thakur, how he was also very much criticized. And the first time he died, he left the body, because he left the body twice. The story goes like this. So the first time during the ceremony, before cremating his body, then a lot of local brahmanas arrived and started criticizing him because he was considered by them to be just a Shudra, and a Shudra who was giving initiation to people coming from Brahminical families and so on. So one of the main disciples started crying, started praying his Guru Maharaj to please let them understand how much they are wrong. So he came back to this world, and a golden thread appeared on his body. A sacred thread appeared, manifested on his body, and he actually forgave all these people around who started worshiping him. He initiated them, and then his life went on for some more time. From our ISKCON Society history, second initiation started in 1968 in Boston. Few devotees were initiated. The next day, few ladies were initiated, and I guess you all know the story about it. And Prabhupada started initiating the senior devotees at that time. But already in 1974, we can find a lot of letters where Srila Prabhupada was more cautious about giving second initiation, and we will see why. So from the society point of view, we have seen the philosophical point of view, we have seen the historical point of view. Now let's look at the society. Actually, a Vaishnava, in the moment the second initiation is introduced, we somehow rather introduce the Daivi Varnam Shrama Dharma. So we introduce the idea of dividing society in Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. But as we said, anybody coming from these classes can have the second initiation. So the main point here is that Vaishnava is transcendental. Doesn't matter what his activity is, his or her activity is, Vaishnava is transcendental. And Srila Prabhupada stressed it very much. But for proper management of the material world, one should be acting like Brahmana. One should be acting like Kshatriya, and that is required. Just like actually we are doing so. Some of you are preaching and some of you are cleansing the temple. It does not mean that a sannyasi who is preaching, he is better than a man who is cleansing. Their position as Vaishnava is the same, but for the management, one is cleansing and one is seeing the construction, one is preaching like that. A Vaishnava coming to the position of doing the work of a Shudra does not mean he has become Shudra. He is Vaishnava. Try to understand this point. Just like in the stage, if you want to play something, one must be king, one must be queen, one must be, but neither of them king or queen, are king or queen. This is stage play. Similarly, to manage things in the material world, we have to guna karma. Karma must be there. Therefore, the karma should be done, executed according to quality. A devotee, because he's working as Shudra, he is not a Shudra. Neither he is a Brahmana. He is already in the spiritual platform, but for management, we have to do that. One can do the Shudra's work nicely. Let him be engaged in that way. Why he should imitate? A devotee, because he's working as a Shudra, he's not a Shudra. Neither he is, okay, that was already there, sorry. Does he get second initiation, the devotee asks. So one is doing the work of a Shudra. Does he get second initiation? And Prabhupada, everything he will get. So he gets, yes, second initiation means recognized. Now he has become fully competent Vaishnava. So in standard Varnashrama, the activities of a person define the person, but in Daivi Varnashrama, the qualities of a person as a Vaishnava define primarily the person. Then the activity is secondary as long as the person has the quality of a Vaishnava. We will. This is what following that saying morning walk. What if the person cannot chant 16 rounds a day? He says, I can't, and that the reason can be I have too many things to do. I work in the fields. I don't have time. I don't have taste or whatever. The answer of Prabhupada is, then he is not even a human being. He's a rascal. That's all. He's not a human being. What to consider of talking about? Don't talk about him if he cannot chant 16 rounds. He's not even a human. He's an animal. So Prabhupada was pretty strong in the case devotees, especially those who had second initiation, were not following the principles or not chanting their rounds. And that's why in 74, he started writing. I think sometimes in the past, devotees have been recommended chiefly because some more helpers were required in maintaining the daily work. Of course, necessity is there. It is just like in government, the government has need for a number of men to fill important posts. But first, the persons must be qualified before they can award the post. Even though there may be a pressing demand, first, the man must be qualified. Now that we are more and more trying to implement the national divisions of society, we should not think that everyone has to become a Brahmana. For example, you are developing a farm there, so those who work the farm do not necessarily have to be a Brahmana if they are not inclined to Brahminical standards. In this way, be careful about awarding second initiation. So everybody can be a Brahmana, but if there is no inclination toward Brahminical standards, then they shouldn't get the second initiation. And this brings us to the individual. What qualities a person is supposed to have when a person can be initiated into second initiation. Srila Prabhupada connect this to the verse, Nashta Prayeshva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya, saying that by regular Bhagavata Seva, which means serving pure devotee and regularly hearing from Srimad Bhagavatam, a person situates himself or herself on the sattva platform. And that's the point where Rajaguna and Tamoguna are almost gone. Nashta prayesh. It means they are almost gone. And so the person is not lusty, is not greedy, is not lazy. So the sattva qualities are evident. The person has a satisfied mind. And that's the point where you can get second initiation. He is stable and you can get second initiation. As soon as you are fixed up, the devotional service is so nice. As soon as you are fixed up, the other two qualities, here he means Rajoguna and Tamoguna, to be fixed up in devotional service, therefore we offer the Brahminical position. One who is, when we see that this man is chanting Hare Krishna mantra and his bad habits, contaminated stage is much improved, Nashta Prayeshu. Prayeshu means almost he is purified. At that time, he is fixed up in devotional service. Therefore, we offer the Brahminical position, sacred thread. Because a person who is fixed up in devotional service, he is a Brahmana. So individually, being fixed up means that a person is steadily going toward the stage of Madhyamadikari. And the two paths of Bhagavata Vidhi and Pancharadhika Vidhi are going together to help the person doing that. And here the deity worship process is very, very important, because let's see the qualities an individual is supposed to have to be acting like a Brahman. So first of all, it should be clean. And most of the letters where Srila Prabhupada gives second initiation to the devotees, this is the thing he says. A Brahmana should be clean inside and outside. Inside by chanting mantras, outside by taking bath regularly, 2-3 times a day, by washing his hands after eating. And he gives sometimes many, many details, by keeping shaved heads and so on. So this is the cleaning side. He should be regulated, which means that he or she should participate to the spiritual program, should wake up before 4 o'clock. Sometimes, for Mongol Arctic, sometimes Prabhupada wrote that if a person cannot wake up early, why should we give him second initiation? He shouldn't get a second initiation. So he should be regulated in his habits and his program. He should be learned, because that's another important thing for a Brahmana. He is the guide of the society, so he should be learned. And one point toward the end of his life, Srila Prabhupada gave the indication that nobody should get second initiation without Bhakti Shastra. And it is something that has not been much implemented, but in some gurus and in some temples, it is a rule that it should be there. Other places is less observed. And a person should be exemplary. So what does it mean to be exemplary? Another thing that Srila Prabhupada always repeated to the temple president in this case was, and you should teach them to be a Brahmana. And you should teach them by your example how to be a Brahmana. So this Brahmana culture is a real culture, is something that we are supposed to imbibe from the people we are living with. So another function, another very important characteristic of Brahmana is to learn what he is supposed to be and to act accordingly. So he should know what he's supposed to be, and he should practice that. In order to do that, his preaching is also very much important, because that's a function of the Brahmana. He's a teacher, so he should practice and teach what he has learned. So just to sum up everything, because my time is practically over. I'm a little bit late, sorry. From a philosophical point of view, we have the two systems going together, Bhagavata Vidhi and Pancharadhika Vidhi. The Vedic Vidhi is no longer That is no longer possible in this age because there are not brahmanas by birth. From an historical point of view, the second initiation has been introduced by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, of course, based on the previous Acharya instructions, and was introduced in ISKCON in 1968 in Boston. This introduced also the Daivi Varnashrama system, where people are divided into different groups. But the main point is always to remember that a Vaishnava is, first of all, a Vaishnava, is a servant of Krishna. Doesn't matter what his activities. The qualities are very much important. So in order to be a Brahmana, and in order not to defy all our history and the philosophy and our function in society, a Brahmana is supposed to develop personal qualities. And the process of deity worship is very beneficial for any person who wants to develop those kind of qualities like cleanliness, honesty, and learning, and so on.